this is not a new ministry. A lot of people say, I just found you, and they think it's something that's new. This ministry has been around for a long, long time. I am the third pastor here in my, I believe, what is my 18th year here as the third pastor of this ministry. This is a Bible-based, word-based teaching ministry. Unlike other churches that people might see on TV who are into entertainment, fluff, and everything else, this is an educational place. And I can't say this enough because I encounter people. It seems like God gives me the opportunity each and every week to meet people who have not spent even an hour of their life looking at this book and what it contains, and yet they have so many opinions and ideas of how not true or how whatever they might think. I don't stand here as a person who believes in myths and fairy tales. Everything that I've done has been backed by research, not just through this primary source, the Bible, but other sources, historical sources, realms of antiquity that most of you know I love to kind of go into. So it's important for those people who are just coming to the ministry to understand, or if you're just tuning in for the first time, that this is not a place where A, you tune in for entertainment, B, this is not a place for people to come. If you are not interested in learning about God's Word, there's really nothing here for you. That's plain and simple. There are way too many entities and things. I'm sure some of you have maybe been reading the news. In fact, one of the messages I read before coming out here, someone said, you said I should read and look at the news, and now I'm depressed. Don't blame me. I didn't do that. What's out there is what's out there. I didn't make that happen. But it is important, and I've been trying to say this as much as possible. It's important for all of us to be educated, not just in this book, but equally what's going on out there. It makes a difference. Sometimes our silence is interpreted as either passive agreement or no quarrel at all. In other words, you just let things go. And I've told you, we're at a serious crossroads in this country. If you are even looking at a little bit of the news, you can see that there are so many different dilemmas, not just the subject now of what has happened with abortion and abortion rights going back to the states, which is each state will make its own decision. But there are other things going on that are more global, that are a little bit more scary. And many of you, as I said, went through my mail this morning, reading a lot of people saying, you know, I'm a little bit worried about what's happening in the world. I'm worried that, and fill in the blanks. Here's the thing. I'm not telling people be a stoic and don't worry, but I'll keep repeating this. God is not the author of fear. And the greatest fear-mongering that is occurring in this time is actually coming from a source which I've called American propaganda, our news outlets, basically filling you with every terror that's imaginable. Prepare for the next terrible pandemic. Prepare for this. Get ready for that. There's going to be a crash. We won't have food. We won't have money. We won't have anything. And if you keep listening, I guess the idea is to get you so scared that you don't even stick your head out of your door to take a look at the sun still shining. And how unfortunate that so many people that I've talked to have succumbed to the fear. Now look, I am not in control of what goes on in the world, but I do know this, there is someone who is. And all that is happening now for people who are, I'm sorry to say it, ignorant. You know, the people that say, I don't believe this or I can't believe in the Bible. But if you study this book, you realize that everything that is happening right now has been written down on the pages of this book. So if people are worried, it really would behoove you, those who are not familiar with this book, to take the time to actually read it. Don't say you don't like, you don't believe, you can't fathom. Take the time to actually read it to find out, and maybe you won't understand it, and that's why people tune in here. But the reality is that all that is happening now and what will happen and what is yet to happen has been foretold in this book. So we people who are of the book can say, I know in whom I have believed, I know in whom I've placed my trust, I know that all the things that were told aforetime that have come to pass. Now, if God has made good on those things, he'll make good on these things, which means that those people who trust him, doesn't mean you and I will not suffer some of the bumps, and we'll call them probably massive bumps that are occurring out in the world. It does not mean that we will be spared from that. What it does mean is we do have that extra, what I'd say, leg up to know that no matter what's happening out in the world, God will take care of his own. It's not as though we're just going to all sit back and sit on our hands and say, well, I'm just going to wait for something to happen. Active faith, trusting in God's word, and putting that faith into operation each and every single day in spite of what's going on is required in these times. Equally for those people who have heard me for the last many weeks talk about or even allude to the fact that our rights in this country are being infringed upon, encroached upon, the desire to basically change the system of what we've known since the birth of this nation, requires its citizens to be on guard, to be vigilant. We can't just sit and watch as the world passes by and think, well, it'll all work out. Now, when I say God's in control, that's true, but let us not also be like those people that say, well, then if it's all going to work out, I'm just going to be passive and sit here and say or do nothing. I've told you I believe that we can make our voices known. Sometimes it's through the pocketbook. You know, somebody said to me, well, what do you do with... Somebody picked up on my Starbucks comment. In fact, I think a lot of you did. And I'm a big believer in this. Don't support what you don't believe in. Be vigilant. Be vigilant. I mean, I actually started by pulling up a list of companies that have gone to what I call the dark side. And it actually kind of took me aback because there are so many products that I actually happen to use and buy from these very vendors that are contributing to what I would call the eradication of the American society as we know it. So you choose, just like choosing where you're going to, people that come to this church and will pay where they get their spiritual food. People have a choice on what they're going to support. And I've said to you, you know, a lot of people think when I say these things, I'm maybe alluding to acts of violence or criminality. No, not at all. I'm talking about things that we can do as people that are peaceful, that send a very powerful message. I will not support a corporation that is supporting young children, especially those 5 and under, to choose their gender or to be brainwashed into some form of accepting pedophilia as absolutely normal within our society. These are all things that we can be vigilant about without essentially lifting a hand, save not putting it in your wallet to support. These are the things that I tell you because I'm finding myself in the very same predicament. I'm no different than you. I look around, I think to myself, how can I make a difference? I mean, I'm standing here talking to you, but how can I, as an American, not just as a Christian, as an American, make a difference? So think on the things that you are able to do and exercise your power to do them. That's all I have to say about that.
To this house, magnify the Lord, lift up holy hands, our hearts in one accord, worship and bow down before